everybody. This is kind of a bittersweet day at the old boat shop today. As you can see, I've kind of rolled it out of the garage and put the two masts up just so I could see what it was going to look like because I couldn't stand it. But come on over to the boat and I'll show you what we got. It's been a while since we really done a video. We're a little behind on videos and, you know, putting them on YouTube and, you know, filming them the whole 9 yards. It's been very busy. So anyway, I believe the last video you saw, I was making the round spars and the mast and the bird's mouth, and I was going over all that. Well, since then, we've built the seats and the side benches and the floorboards. Originally, I was going to do all of these out of 5/4 pine, and the floorboards are going to be 1x4, you know, select grade pine boards. But I got a pretty readily available source for some nice dry walnut, and so with the encouragement of my wife and a few friends, I was kind of talked into doing the seats and the floorboards and stuff out of some, you know, different and better wood than just pine or Douglas fir.
And you did your own design on that one.
So the seats are walnut, and I inlaid some Douglas fir strips just to kind of give it a little contrast. On the side benches, same thing, walnut bench, and then I inlaid some Douglas fir. It looks much more complicated than it is, trust me. I came up with this design like this, and so I drew that out after I got this seat cut out and the shape where it fit. Then I took my pattern and I cut that on the bandsaw, and I took one of these strips of Douglas fir and I clamped it in there and glued it. The next day I simply took that pattern and flipped it in for in, and I drew the other side. And I cut in on a bandsaw and glued a strip over there, so I ended up with like a little chain. Anyway, this is just totally my idea. I must have seen this somewhere in the past or something. I had no idea, but I like it. And then the floorboards, I was able to get some, when I went to get that last load of walnut, the guy didn't know, but when we unloaded the rough sawn stuff, there was some cherry boards in there. Not enough to do a whole bunch, but I was able to do every other board with cherry, so I have walnut, cherry, a little bit of a contrast there. Really, I'm very pleased with it. But like I said, this is a bittersweet day. Construction's done. So the process now is going to be taking all the seats out, taking all the floorboards out, and filling all the holes and sanding, and all the drudgery starts now. And then after all that, then there'll be probably 3 or 4 coats of paint anyway. And the seats are going to get varnished. A couple of coats of epoxy, sanded between each coat, and then varnish. And so I'm sure we'll do another video when those are done and ready to go back in the boat.
And what about how tall these things are?
The main mast is 18.5 foot tall. Mizzen mast, I think, is 13 or 14 foot tall.
And the whole boat is how long again?
19'6".
Yeah. And how many screws you got in there?
Well, there's no screws in the boat. 0. The only screws that are in the boat at all is in these seats. They hold the seats in, and these cap pieces for the dagger box and the floorboards. And the only reason actually that the screws are in those places is so these can be removed when you need to refinish them. If they could be permanently mounted in the boat, which I suppose they could be, but it would really be a chore to refinish them. But they could be epoxied in, and there could be 0 screws in the boat. But the structure of the boat itself, or any of this, or the planking, or the framing, None of that has it. Zero. It's zero screws. This was the last piece I made, was the steering bar, hooks to the rudder. Most of them are straight that I've seen, but then if you can imagine this running straight, it couldn't go much lower than that. As you see people driving them, they're holding their arm up in the air and I kind of wanted my hand to be down by my side as I was steering the boat, sitting here or sitting over there, you know. But so I kind of put an arch in it. This is some cherry. I had extra, not the greatest wood, but I actually I made a little mold, cut it out, kind of eyeballed it. And I cut strips. I don't know if you can see them probably in the video, but there's about 4 or 5 strips, maybe 1/8 or 1/16 thick. The whole thing is maybe 5/8, 3/4 thick, about 1.5 inches wide. But I just epoxied and clamped it around that mold, and that gives it that shape. I elected to go ahead and go with a wooden pin to hold that in, and I'll attach it to the other side of the tiller arm with a small piece of 1/8 inch rope or something, so this stays with the tiller arm.
How about that brass?
Oh well, yeah, the tiller or the rudder is mounted. Pintles, inset. I got to round all these corners and all that, and coat everything. And the gudgeons are set on the stem. Little small, very, very small temporary screws to make sure kind of everything's going to clear. And then when I put the boomkin, trying to position it so that the end of it was on the center line of the boat. And when this is on the center line of the boat, that you can still go hard over with the rudder without hitting.
Yeah.
I didn't really pay a lot of attention to where it said to cut the hole on the plans. I just kind of eyeballed everything, and I just didn't want anything to interfere. And it was a little bit traumatic cutting the hole in in the side of the boat, but I thought about it for a while and decided, yeah, okay. That's actually just a hole saw, and I drilled half the hole from out here and half the hole from in there, and then connected the dots, more or less. But I guess that's about it.